Welcome back to another video. This is going to be the history of video. So today we have the history of the Toronto Raptors. And like the other books, I figured out they only go to about 2005 because this is just like all-time history. So after the book is over, I will explain what has happened throughout like the rest of their history and up to now. This one should be pretty easy if you know and watch the NBA for at least a year. You should know the current things of the Toronto Raptors, but let's get right into it. There are no statistics about how many minutes Raptors guard Vince Carter spent suspended in midair at Toronto's Air Canada Centre. But anyone who has seen Vinsanity in action knew that his lanky legs were just as likely to leave the ground as they were to stay put, especially when the 6'6" star got within jumping range of the hoop. Carter would leap, angle his legs up and around anyone beneath him, and soar in for a slam dunk. And to the despair of the Raptors' opponent, he'd do it over and over and over again. Toronto, Ontario started out in 1793 as a small British fort along the shores of Lake Ontario, built to help protect Canada from possible invasion of the recently independent United States. Since then, Toronto has grown into Canada's biggest and most influential city, one that has long been known as a hockey city. But in 1995, professional basketball came to town as well. That year, a new National Basketball Association NBA team named the Toronto Raptors was born. Toronto businessman John Bitove Jr., I don't know if I'm saying that right, had been a good amateur basketball player before establishing a successful investment firm. He was determined to bring an NBA team to Toronto. After convincing NBA officials and fans that fans existed in Toronto and putting together plans for a new arena, Bitove got his wish. The NBA officially granted the city an expansion franchise in November of 1993. The next step was finding a leader to build the new Raptors. Tove chose former Detroit Pistons star Isaiah Thomas as vice president of the basketball operations. Thomas, in turn, hired former Pistons assistant coach Brendan Malone as the Raptors head coach. Then, in the 1995 expansion draft, Toronto began to build its roster, with such players as Oliver Miller and guard Willie Anderson. The Raptors' next look to the NBA draft was to find a point guard. With the 7th pick, the team selected 5'10" Damon Stoudemire, who made up for his small stature with quickness, deadly outside shooting, and a fearless attitude. The young point guard had a tattoo of the cartoon character Mighty Mouse on his right arm. Mighty Mouse was always saving people and coming to the rescue, he explained. He could get you out of any jam. That's what I always wanted to be like. Oh, and yeah, he was small. In the team's first season, Stoudemire averaged 19 points and 9 assists a game, and was a runaway winner for the NBA Rookie of the Year. Even though the Raptors finished just 21-61, Toronto pulled off stunning victories over 3 of the NBA's most powerful teams, the Bulls, the Magic, and the Supersonics. The next season, Stoudemire was joined by Marcus Camby, who the team selected with the 2nd overall pick in the 1996 NBA Draft. Don Calipari, Camby's coach at the University of Massachusetts, described the agile young forward as a 7-footer with guard skills who can block shots. Under the new head coach, Darrell Walker, the Raptors improved to a 30-52 record in 1996. Stoudemire established himself as one of the NBA's top point guards, and swingman Doug Christie ranked 2nd in the league in steals. In the 1997 NBA Draft, the Raptors added another potential star, 18-year-old swingman Tracy McGrady from Mount Zion Christian Academy in North Carolina. McGrady's physical gifts were impossible to ignore. At 6'8", he boasted a 44-inch vertical leap and was a superb ball handler. He can be a great player in this league, said Indiana Pacers president Donnie Walsh. He had the athleticism and the height. He'll be very hard to defend. McGrady's first year was a turbulent time in Toronto. Early in 1997, Isaiah Thomas resigned. Then the team was sold to an ownership group called the Toronto Maple Leafs, to an ownership group that also controlled the Toronto Maple Leafs professional hockey team. Their new owners instated Butch Carter as head coach and made some blockbuster deals. Stoudemire and another player were traded away for 3 players and future draft picks, while forward Popeye Jones and 2 others went to the Boston Celtics in a trade for Chauncey Billups and D. Brown. These drastic changes destroyed the team chemistry that had been growing in Toronto. Christie, one of the few veteran players remaining, helped steady the team while McGrady and Camby developed. But in the 1997, the Raptors plummeted to a horrible 16-66. The Raptors recognized that they needed to add steady veteran help to guide the team's developing players, and that they needed to find a charismatic young star who could recapture the fans' interest. Toronto achieved its first goal in 1998 by trading Camby to the New York Knicks for veteran forward Charles Oakley. Then, with the 4th overall pick in the 1998 NBA draft, the Raptors achieved their second goal. They selected forward Anton Jamison and then traded him to the Golden State Warriors for cash and the rights to rookie swingman Vince Carter. Carter drew comparison to former Chicago Bulls star Michael Jordan. Like Jordan, he stood 6'6" and shaved his head and had played college ball at the University of North Carolina. And he could jump like Jordan. Mike seemed to hang in the air a little bit longer, but Vince gets up higher, said Raptors forward Kevin Willis. He'll come at anyone to prove they cannot block his dunk. In the early 1998 season, the rebuilt Raptors moved into the Air Canada Centre, and fans packed the arena to watch Carter's high-flying exploits. Observers started calling him half-man, half-amazing, and the Toronto faithful quickly dubbed him Air Canada. Carter teamed up with McGrady, who happened to be a distant cousin, to give the Raptors one of the most promising young tandems in the league. Like Carter, McGrady had an explosive first step and a vertical leap that allowed him to create shots for himself at any time. Oakley and Willis, meanwhile, dominated the boards with a bruising style that perfectly complemented the Raptors' speedy backcourt. With Christie, a long-range bomber, and D. Brown helping as well, Toronto finished a respectable 23-27 during the lockout-shortened 98 season. Before the next season, Toronto signed veteran guards Del Curry and Tyrone Muggsy Bogues and traded for forward Antonio Davis. Muggsy Bogues was 5'3", by the way. These players gave the team the same selfless attitude as Charles Oakley, an intimidating enforcer who was happy to leave the spotlight to his young teammates as he took care of the dirty work down low. Combining these players' efforts with Carter and McGrady's high-flying heroics, the Raptors soared to a 45-37 record and made the 2000 playoffs. They were swept in the first round by the Knicks. But the experience was a big step for the young team. In the offseason, McGrady left to join the Magic, and the team traded Doug Christie to the Kings. The Raptors also made a change at head coach, replacing Butch Carter with Lenny Wilkens, the winningest coach in NBA history. I'm excited about it, and I can't wait to get started, Wilkens told reporters. I thought last year they made a tremendous stride in getting into the playoffs, and I think their future is all upward. Wilkens was right. In 2001, the team started as a 26-23 and sent both Carter and forward Antonio Davis to the All-Star game. A trio of trades that brought veteran Tracy Murray and center Eric Montrose to the team helped the Raptors finish 47-35 and qualify for another trip to the playoffs. Once again, the Raptors drew the Knicks in the first round. After New York one-game run, Toronto fans feared a repeat of the previous season, but the Raptors rallied to win Game 2 by 20 points and sealed the series victory with a 93-89 win in Game 5 at Madison Square Garden. Toronto then pushed the Philadelphia 76ers to the limit in the second round, but the Raptors' season ended when Carter's potentially series-winning shot rolled off the rim in Game 7. During the offseason, the Raptors welcomed a future Hall of Famer, bringing aging center Hakeem Olajuwon to town in a trade with the Houston Rockets. Unfortunately, the high-flying Carter missed about half of the 2001-2 season with a knee injury. Even though the team sneaked into the playoffs, the Pistons brought Toronto's season to an end in the first round. Injuries to Carter and Davis further slowed the Raptors in 2002-2003. The team finished 24-58 out of playoff contention for the first time in 3 seasons. Former Pistons assistant Kevin O'Neal then took over as head coach with the hopes of turning the team's top pick in the 2003 draft. Georgia Tech forward Chris Bosh into a franchise player. Both exceeded at the highest expectations, leading all NBA rookies in blocks and boards, but the Raptors did not. The team took a step backwards, missing the playoffs again, with a record of 33-49. The next season was a replay of the same story, ending with the same 33-49 record. Bosh led the team in rebounds with almost 9 a game, and lanky guard Jalen Rose averaged 18 points per game to lead the scoring attack. The biggest headline of the season, though, was written on December 17, 2004, when the Raptors said goodbye to Air Canada Vince Carter. Vince Carter had grown unhappy in Toronto, so the team sent him to the New Jersey Nets in exchange for forward Eric Williams and Aaron Williams. Aaron and Eric Williams were acquiring two character players who are tough, defensive-minded players, Raptors general manager Rob Babcock said. They will improve our defense and rebounding, and they fit this philosophy that we're establishing here in Toronto. In just a decade, the Raptors have risen from expansion roots to become one of the NBA's most exciting young teams. They have also captured the hearts of sports fans in the city, where hockey has long been king. As Toronto heads into the 21st century, one thing is certain. Like a dinosaur on the team's logos, the Raptor days are an NBA doormat are a thing of the past. So that was ending in 2005. But now, as you can see from the picture here, a while later, they got Jose Calderon and some other very good players, and were playoff contenders. And then a while later, in the 2010s, they got Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. Now, DeMar DeRozan was very, very good. DeMar DeRozan wasn't a very good shooter, but he could dunk the ball. He was like a Vince Carter kind of player. He could dunk very well. Kyle Lowry was a sharpshooter and a great point guard. They made the playoffs a lot, and they made it to the conference finals against the Cavaliers in 2017 or 18. I think it was 2018. And they lost to the Cavaliers, though. And in the next season, a blockbuster trade happened. They traded DeMar DeRozan to the San Antonio Spurs for Kawhi Leonard, who had won an NBA championship a few years earlier. Kawhi Leonard then took the team to an NBA championship against the Golden State Warriors. Toronto did win the championship in 6 games, but the Warriors had many, many injuries. Kevin Durant was injured, Klay Thompson was injured, so all they had was really Curry and Green. The Warriors put up a good fight, but Kawhi Leonard was able to lead the Raptors to their first NBA championship in 2019. And that is the story of the Toronto Raptors.